Good evening, ladies, and welcome to this very, very special edition of our Project She Empowerment series. We have an incredible guest speaker with us today. I'm privileged enough to have known the wonderful Amber for, I was working it out, I think it's probably over 10 years now, but you'd be able to correct me on when you were going out with Steve-O, eh? But I think,
Oh my gosh, I think I was, it'd be over 10 years. I was about 24.
yes, that's what I was thinking. I'm
About
like,
12, 11, 12 years now.
yes. So, a very beautiful, long-standing friendship where we've sort of come in and out of each other's lives. But, when I first met Amber, I knew straight away that she was always going places. She knew what she wanted, she knew where she was going, and she radiated, this sense of purpose, strength, and clarity from the moment that I met her. And so when the idea actually came about to run the Project She Empowerment series, I was bouncing a few ideas off Sunita, and we both thought of Amber as one of the women that we would love to be a part of the series, and such a great influence on the group. And then it was really about figuring out where we could actually utilize Amber best, because she has so many skills, such a great story to share, and you'll be hearing from her in a moment. And I'll go into that in a bit of detail as well. But let's look at where Amber's journey has taken her so far. So grateful that she's here with us today. So Amber's built an incredibly successful career, and we were just discussing this before I pressed record. And I love her journey because, as I said, she's always had her own back, and she's just gone from strength to strength to strength with lots of lessons along the way. But, she's just unbelievable. So her successful career followed from her studies of financial services and mortgage broking. At a very young age, Amber was then promoted to general manager. She took up this opportunity with the company that she was working for. And, to have that as an opportunity at such a young age really demonstrated, obviously, her leadership, her drive, and her innovation, amongst so many other qualities. From there, Amber went on to become the founding director of her own company, AKL Finance Group. And she's going to talk about, the pivotal decision and why she did that today as well, which is going to be fantastic. Along the way, she's had so many other entrepreneurial projects. I know she's got some new things on the go at the moment. But one of those that I find so interesting was she actually had her own cafe in Bentley, which was very, very successful, so much so that she's now sold that business and is on to the next project. So, always thinking, always innovating. And really, Amber is a true professional and puts her heart and soul into everything that she does, and grit. She's been an inspiration to watch. And, career aside, as I said, Amber is a woman of grace. She has resilience, strength, and she loves contributing into others. And particularly, I've asked her to obviously contribute into our women community. But when I approached Amber, she said that Project She, the philosophy, the values, it really aligned with her, and she definitely didn't hesitate to be involved, which I'm very grateful for. I know Amber and I have had a few discussions about what she wanted to talk about today. She's put a lot of thought into it amongst her busy life and everything that's going on. So on behalf of the 200 women that are in the series, we say thank you in advance. And what Amber is going to do today is she's going to walk us through her own personal journey as a career woman, her success and lessons in the area of finance, in life advancement, in life in general as a woman, and obviously as an entrepreneur as well, and the decisions that have come around that. So much value is about to be rolled out. I can't wait. I've got my notebook here and ready. And with all that being said, I'm going to hand it over to you, beautiful Amber. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Oh my God, you have a way with words. You're so kind. So thank you very much. And thank you for having me. As you said, this project that you're doing, it really does very much align with how I guess run my life and the things I like to be involved in. And I guess a part of me, giving back to, because I've had so many women over my journey more than happy to help me on my path, and I thank them too. So thank you for having me. I guess, the more that I've spoken to you about this, Emily, the more I've kind of thought about my journey. And, you don't always think about the steps that you take along the way until you actually sit down and really think about them. And I remember kind of early on when I had got into finance, someone had said to me, you should keep a journal of all these big decisions that you make and all these little fears along the way that you think about, and you don't always remember them at the end. It's like when you reflect on your goals, you forget that you even wanted them until you look back at them and you find out that you've already achieved them. And it's like, oh, okay, how did I even make that happen sometimes? So, yeah, I guess what I really wanted to, start with was about how I originally got into finance. Because I think a lot of people, I find a lot of people these days that are in business and starting their own businesses, they have a kind of definite knowing of what they want to do. And that wasn't me. I didn't know I wanted to do finance. I didn't have hunger for numbers or anything like that. I grew up as a dancer. I was fascinated with dancing and alternative therapies. And, I left school and studied nursing and massage. So, finance was kind of far from my mind. And to be honest, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. From 18, 19, all the way through my early 20s, I really didn't have a definite purpose on where I wanted to go. I just knew that I wanted to do something. And I guess for me, I always did know that I would want to have my own business. I just didn't know what that was. And I haven't really ever known why having my own business was there. I just knew I wanted that. And until I actually reflected on why, I didn't understand it. And the why was because my parents separated when I was really young, and my father didn't financially contribute to our lives in any manner of speaking. And my mum, I really watched her do it on her own. And I watched her still be able to give us what we wanted, still be able to put us through school. I danced 3 or 4 nights a week, and that could not have been cheap. And I know that now, at the age that I'm at and the income that I earn, I now know that what she did on her salary, I just don't even know how it was done. And I have such an appreciation for that. But that, I believe, was my underlying drive a lot of the time, even though I wasn't aware of it, to provide for myself and to look after me and to think about how even though I always wanted a man in my life, obviously, and a partner to share it with, I also wanted to create something that was mine and that I could stand on my own 2 feet and that I would always be, I guess, safe with. And that's only come from reflection. Obviously, I didn't know that while I was doing it. It's only been time that has done that. So really, for me, my finance journey began when I met a CEO of a company through promotional work that I was doing at the time. And they were looking for a personal assistant to a current mortgage broker. And at the time, I had been working in a call center, and I thought, you know what, anything's got to be better than that. I'm going to do this. So I ended up working with a group of I think there was about 7 guys and only 1 girl there. And I became this young, high-flying mortgage broker's assistant. So he was driving the car I wanted to drive. He looked the part, and I was like, wow, how is this guy doing this? Like, I think he was 24 at the time. I would have been maybe 23. So he was younger than me, driving a convertible and living the life, so I thought at the time. So I ended up assisting him for 2 years. I went to every appointment with him. I sat in on all of his appointments in the office. I kind of learnt the craft from him, even though I was his assistant. And then what happened was he ended up leaving. He went and bought another mortgage broking business and left that business that we were working for. And as time grew on, over the next probably couple of months after he left, I started actually, even though I hadn't had my qualification, because I'd been working alongside him, I got given a lot of the work to do. And then I just decided, look, I'm going to do my qualifications in finance and mortgage broking and learn what I could to do it, because the way in which he was doing it, I thought I could do it too. And that's what I did for the next kind of 6 to 12 months. I worked with that company and did my qualification. And then I decided that the way in which this company operated wasn't kind of in line with my values. And I decided that I was going to move on. And I heard of another company that was being set up at the time by the Real Estate Institute of Victoria and by a whole group of real estate agents. And I ended up making contact, being referred through a real estate agent to the director, had an interview, and literally started there a week later. That was interesting. And I guess for me, I had been working for another company for a year or two, but I didn't class that as real experience because I was learning alongside him. I wasn't actually in front of the client talking about their finances, structuring it for them. So for me, this next job was pretty much at the coalface. I was out there talking to clients. I was in an area that was very fluent. People had complex scenarios. I was very overwhelmed, to say the least, in the first year to two, to be honest. I had to upskill really quickly. And look, for me, it's always been when I'm talking to people or clients, the way that I feel confident is by having the knowledge. So if I know what I'm doing, then I can semi-fake it, but no one wants to do that really, do they? And I always, I think the important thing for me in that first couple of years was to build my confidence in front of people. And that was really using the brokers around me that were there, and also just leveraging off other people's knowledge, and not being scared to ask for help. That was a really big thing for me. I was and still am not too proud to approach people that have more knowledge than I have and learn from them. So really that's kind of the company at that point was called Mortgage Fair, and that was owned by a group of real estate agents, Buxton, Hodges, Biggin & Scott. You would have heard of a lot of them, the Real Estate Institute. And there was a representative being a real estate director from each of those businesses, including the CEO of the REIV at the time, Enzo Raimondo, and they would all sit on the board of our business. So I worked for that company as a mortgage broker, an employed mortgage broker, which meant I earned a salary, not commission, which when you're entering that kind of space is safe for you. You've got a guaranteed income, but what happens is as you build your knowledge, you actually want to build your own business. And it's really hard to do that when you're employed by someone else. But what happened was 2.5 years in, the company had a full restructure and they decided that we would all become self-employed loan writers. And I crapped my pants, really, at the time. I remember feeling confident in my own ability, but I wasn't confident in the amount of business and referral business that I was able to bring in to sustain that level of income. So definitely put a rocket up me very quickly. And I started obviously really leveraging the real estate relationships that I had built and really fostering those and delivering really good service so that those real estate agents were really, really confident and happy to put me in front of their clients. So what then happened for me is I spent the next 3 to 4 years at this company, building my own, I guess, mortgage business within that business. Because we were contracting, we would get a split of the commission, and that was ours and we owned that. But in saying that, it was quite a low commission and it was hard to build it quickly within that company. So as time went on, I found that I got to probably about, I think I would have been 28 at the time. And I started to just get a bit stale and lost. And I thought that a new CEO came in and took over our company and there was no real direction. And I found that I was doing a lot of the things that the CEO should have been doing. He wasn't the type of person that actually wanted to get his hands dirty, in the sense of going to real estate office meetings every week, really helping to foster the relationships for us. And what ended up happening was a lot of the real estate groups would ask me to present to their teams, would ask me to present to their sales meetings on what was going on within the business, what level of business we were writing for them, all of those kind of things. So what ended up happening for me was I was running my own business, but I was also stepping into more of a leadership role, which I didn't actually realize was happening at the time. But I was being asked more and more to present on behalf of that company. And the CEO kept putting me forward to do that. And I was kind of like, well, why am I doing this? This is really your job. But okay, whatever, I'll do it. And that's really what happened. And then what ended up happening is a lot of the brokers that were working for the business started coming and approaching me and saying, well, like, what's his role here? What's he doing? Like, he sits in his office going through numbers every day. And I said, look, I'm not going to judge what he does. I just know that I'm doing this. And I had a really, really good relationship with the founding director of the business. I could talk to him about anything. And he was very, very entrepreneurial and very encouraging of anything you wanted to do. And he was almost like a mentor, if I'm honest, but within that business. So, look, I guess to cut a long story short, what happened was that CEO ended up leaving not long after, and we had no leader and we had no direction for the business. We had about 5 or 6 brokers that had left the business when he was there because they just weren't feeling the love, I guess. And then what happened was I ended up, I was in a relationship at the time, and the guy that I was dating obviously could see some potential in me that I wasn't aware of at the time. And he said to me, well, given that there's no general manager and no direction, and all the brokers are coming to you anyway, and all the real estate agents contact you, why don't you do that role? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you do it now. Like, why don't you just go and approach the board and say, I'd like to take over this role and I'd like to, run this company and grow it. And I thought, oh, that sounds kind of cool, but I don't know if I could do that. And he's like, you definitely can. So we ended up spending, I think, a couple of weekends just putting together PowerPoint presentations on what I thought I could do, how I thought I could grow the business, what I was currently doing that was already that role, and I just wasn't aware of it. And anyway, I ended up contacting the founding director and one of the other board members and said, look, I'd really love to, this is after we haven't had anyone go for the role, anyone take the role for 5 or 6 months. So I thought, well, maybe it's time I give it a crack. And I was getting stale, obviously, in the role that I was doing anyway. And I thought, well, maybe this will be a new challenge for me. I can still stay in the industry. I can still really add value to what I'm doing and the company I'm working for because I believed in its vision. So anyway, I approached them, and the funniest thing was I'd spent weekends after weekends doing this PowerPoint presentation, and I literally went in, sat down, pulled out my laptop, and through the whole meeting, the laptop didn't get opened. I didn't do a PowerPoint presentation. I literally had a 20-minute discussion with them. I outlined about 4 or 5 points that I thought I was currently doing, which could be, that I could evolve on and grow even bigger, and what my thoughts were about it. And they said, fine, let's give it a crack. And I was like, it just seemed so simple, which was strange, but now just seemed like I was in the flow and that was what was meant to happen. And that's kind of what happened. So then I had this real issue for about a month or 2 because they said, all right, yep, we don't need a CEO. You're going to be general manager of this business. That's really what it needs. But we, as you said, we need someone that's out there on the road, in the brokers' faces, in the real estate agents' faces, and actually making this thing happen. So that's what I did. I pretty much started out on the road and doing all of that. But the one thing I struggled with was the title. And it's really strange. I don't know what it was. Look, there's a few, I guess, things that that triggered that. One was one of the board members was an old school real estate agent and was kind of like, well, what are you as a 28-year-old woman going to do, really, that we haven't been able to do, because two of them had been previously in that role. And it just, I guess, the belief myself that that I was worthy of that title, number two. And just the belief. And look, I think being thrown into it straight away, I had a scenario where, so when I did take over as general manager, the structure of it was I had 6 male board members that were all over the age of 50 that I had to answer to once a fortnight, including the CEO of the REIV, which is scary and daunting. And then I had all the brokers, of which were all men, but one woman who was older than me, and then all the other men were older than me. So within my first 2 weeks of that role, I had a real estate company call me and tell me that one of the male mortgage brokers was being sexually inappropriate with one of the real estate agents. So, and this was a guy I'd worked with for 6-7 years. So it was, and I had no idea how to handle it. And I just thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So then, I just engaged a HR consultant. I got them to coach me through how to handle it. I then had to fire him, and that was really, really hard. But I had to put my emotions aside in those situations and do what was best for the business and get the support of the board in doing that, which was challenging, but I actually was quite good at it. So it just kind of came naturally, which was interesting. So I then had another, I guess the defining part for me, there was 2 defining parts in actually stepping up and owning that role. One was a girlfriend of mine, 2 months in, was on email to me, and I'd sent her an email, and she called me straight away and she said, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Your email signature still says mortgage broker. How do you expect to be taken seriously if you can't own this role?" And I was just like, oh my God. I said, all right, I'm going to do it now. I will send you an email. I'm doing it now. So I said, I changed it, sent it, and she rang me. She goes, "Better." And I said, okay, all right, I've got to do this. So that was one. And then another thing that I did was there's a big real estate company in Sydney called McGrath. They're now expanding into Melbourne, but they're known in the industry as a powerhouse in real estate. And they had a mortgage broking business called Oxygen, and it was doing like amazing figures. They had heaps of brokers, and it was a really well-respected business. And the general manager of that business, someone I knew him. So I got them to reach out and just float the idea that he would potentially mentor me, just in how to kind of grow the business, how to step into the role. And just, I think he really helped me with the belief in myself, just not because he encouraged that, but more so because he gave me the knowledge and gave me the confidence that I could do that. So he mentored me. He used to call me 2 nights a week, on a Tuesday and a Thursday from 4:30 till 5:30. And we would just go through interviewing techniques, how to approach brokers that are in industry and get them across to our business, and all different little things that really, really helped me. One thing I will say with that role, I did that for about 3.5 years, and I met some of the most incredible people, and some of the opportunities that I got because of that role and the relationships that I built, they still serve me today. Like, I wouldn't have actually been able or confident enough, I don't think, to actually leave that company and start my own had I not done that role and met the people that I'd met through that. So I'm so forever grateful to that founding director, because what then happened was I built the business up a bit, and I asked them for equity in that business so that I could, I guess, have some vested interest and build something that was mine too. At the time, they said no. There was just too many, obviously, shareholders and people sitting on the board that were obviously wanting to take a piece of the pie as well. But what then did happen was I said to them, okay, well, if that's not an option, I really want to start my own business. But I want the opportunity to start that now while I'm working with you, because they didn't have someone to replace me, and they needed someone to still drive the business, but I could do both, was what I thought. And look, I'm very, very lucky. It's not every day you hear that you get these opportunities, but they said yes. And they let me start to write loans again and build my own business while I worked for them. So, and they paid me to do it too. So I was very, very lucky. Excuse me. So, just a few other things I guess I want to touch on before I move on to my own business, and things that happened that were a part of that role. So when I first told you that I started in finance and worked for the other gentleman, I bought my first investment property while I was at that company. I never saw it. I never went and visited it. I saw a photo of it on the internet. It was $110,000 two-bedroom unit in Adelaide. I've never been to Adelaide. All I knew was that it was in a good location, it was renting well, and that based on the research I had done, it was slightly undervalued. So I'd had a tiny, tiny little bit of savings, and I borrowed some money off my mum, and I bought that. And then within 3 months, I actually got it revalued, re-borrowed against it, and then paid my mum back the money I'd borrowed to buy it. So that was like my first little project. I had this thing in my head. I went overseas when I was 21, and I'd had savings, but I really at the time wanted to buy a property. And I thought, I really want to live too, and I don't necessarily want to buy it now, but if I go, I'm going to come back with probably nothing, like we all do when we travel overseas. So I then got back from overseas and thought, no, by the time I'm 25, I want one property. And that's what I did. So I was 25, got that property, and then I really didn't think about buying any more property again. I just thought, no, if I can just pay interest only on that, that's like forced savings for me. I'm paying it off, it'll grow in value, and I'll think about that in another couple of years and focus on my career. And that's what I did. So then obviously fast forward to this general manager role. There was another experience which I kind of think about, but it was kind of the catalyst to buying my second investment property. And what happened with that was, as general manager, I was taking around all these brokers to introduce them to real estate offices. And I was driving around in my Holden Astra at the time, and I was taking these brokers that were driving Mercedes and BMWs and clearly successful brokers, and rocking up to these meetings, introducing them, walking out, and I'm meant to be the general manager of the company and they're the broker, and it just was a total mismatch. And the other thing was too that, you know, sometimes when you're looking the part and feeling the part, you step up to the part. And I think for me at that point in time, I was like, all right, I need a new car. And I guess the thing I want to describe to you though is the thought process that I went through to actually purchase that car, because for me, I couldn't justify at the time spending $60,000 on a car. But with the job and the role, I was getting a car allowance. But I also thought, well, I don't have to buy a car. I could use that car allowance, probably buy another property. I could, you know. But what ended up happening was my inner self started talking to myself, and I pretty much said to myself, well, unless I can afford to buy another investment property at the same time as buy the car, then I won't do it. As in, I won't buy the car if I can't afford to buy another investment property. So I literally remember sitting at my desk and I was like typing into the Commonwealth Bank serviceability calculator all my assets, liabilities, my income, and going, okay, can I do this? All right, I need to get the Adelaide property revalued so I could borrow against that one. And that's what I did. So I did the figures. I could see that I did it. I could do it. And I got the loan for the new property pre-approved so that I knew that I could buy that. And then I bought my car. So I had both, which was pretty cool. And yeah, I think it depends. Like, you know, we all want a shiny brand new car, but we also want to get in the property market, and we also want to build our asset portfolio so that we have choices when we're older as well. So for me, the decision was that if I wanted to have that, then I had to sacrifice something on this side and buy an investment property that was going to cost me money, but that I could hold at the same time. So that's pretty much, you know, there's those things. There's, I guess, one thing that always I use, and I still use today when I'm feeling fear. I felt a lot of fear in that role, a lot of being scared to present, going into, you know, real estate offices with 10 directors, all male, sitting around tables just firing questions at me, asking me what I'm doing, how I can do things better. Like, I was crapping my pants. But I do remember one thing, and this is the thing that I guess I used a lot then and I still use now, and it was, I went to an Anthony Robbins seminar in Sydney and I walked on the hot coals. And I think it was the Awaken the Giant Within one. And I just could not believe that I could actually do that. And I remember he spent 2 or 3 hours like coaching us and getting our mind ready to actually take that first step. And it was all about taking the first step, because let me tell you, once you step on hot coals, you're going to take the next step after you've taken the first one. And and that's what really happened. I always used that scenario. I thought, if I can get across these hot coals, I can get to the end. And don't get me wrong, I burnt my toe. At the end, they had to lift me off and hose my feet down, and I had this little blister on my toe. But I always thought about it and thought, well, there's always going to be situations where you might hurt yourself, or you're going to feel really scared, or, you know, it might not go how you think it's going to go. But if you can just get in there and start, that's half the battle. And that was what I used. I remember sitting in my car out the front, closing my eyes and just imagining I'm walking across these hot coals. I can do this. I can do this. What's the worst that's going to happen? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? And then I just went, bang, I'm out of the car, walked out of the car and straight in. And the meeting went really, really well. And a lot of the presentations that I've done, I've always used that feeling before I've started. And then, I don't know, it just gives me a bit of courage, I think, to just be true, and people will just take you as they take you, really. So yeah, that's the kind of general manager journey, I guess. And from there, I think what happened towards the end of that role was that I went out and I knew I was going to step back into the role. So I had this kind of 3 to 6 month period where I started ringing really successful brokers in the industry and saying to them, look, I don't want to hire you. I just want to come and meet you and chat to you and talk to you about how you do what you do so well. And so many of them said to me, I've never had anyone call me and ask me this before. And that was one thing. That was one of my strengths, and I still think it is one of my strengths. As I said earlier, I'm not scared to ask people for help, and I'm not scared to deal with people that are at board level, or your mum and dads that are buying a house, or your CEOs of companies. I treat them all the same, and I've always felt like that. And I think that's really served me well. So when I ring a broker up that's really successful in the industry and I say, look, I just really want to come and have a coffee with you. I just want to pick your brain. Are you okay with that? And they're like, yeah, sure. I've never had anyone want to do that. That's really flattering. Thank you. It's really nice. And that's what I did. I went and met a really good, successful woman in the industry that was a mum and that had been through a divorce and that was like killing it as a mortgage broker. And I remember just sitting there thinking, I think I can do this too. and just trying to work out what it was that these people did that was different to the way that I did it when I was originally a broker. And look, I think it was a number of things of maturity, of different motivations. I think when you're a single mum, like, you're fully motivated, you know. And yeah, so what I then did with that was I actually sat in on some of their appointments, and they took me through the way that they ran their businesses. And I think the more that I saw that and the more that they shared with me, I thought, I really want to do this myself now. Like, I'm motivated to have my own. And I'd learnt what I had needed to learn to build it by being the general manager. And I was learning from all these people around me that it gave me the confidence to step out and do it myself. The second thing I should probably touch on too is the motivation to have a finance business for me was not only about helping people to buy their dream homes, to build investment portfolios, to educate myself on how to do that for me. It was also about the flexibility of time, about being able to be a mum and being able to run a business too, being able to earn income while I'm sleeping, so that I can at some point in the future have a child and be able to do both, or work part-time or do something from home. Like, I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew that there was a deep motivation. And whether that comes back to what I started with my mum and my parents separating, that's kind of where I started to really explore what my why was and like what was driving me to have my own business. And I think that was a really big part of it too, was to have that flexibility to be a mum and to do all of that. So yeah, so that was a little bit about that journey. And then really the AKL finance journey has been amazing, really. So I left I left Mortgage Fair at the time, and then I went and teamed up with an accounting financial planning practice. And what that did was give me instant business. And I think that's one thing, I guess, when you're going through your 20s and your 30s and you're thinking about having your own business, you don't necessarily have to have it straight away. I think that you can learn from other people's businesses. You can build the relationships you need so that when you do open your own business, you're not necessarily doing those hard yards for that first year or two. You can go in and you can leverage off other relationships that you've built over the time so that you've got business coming in instantly. And that was one thing I couldn't afford with the fact that I had bought those 2 investment properties. I couldn't afford to do it hard for the first year or two. So I really needed to make sure that when I did step out, that I had business opportunities straight away. So what I did with that was I obviously leveraged the real estate relationships I had, and I teamed up with an accounting and financial planning business so that I could look after their clients for them. I paid them a percentage of commission, but then I also had the beauty of looking after real estate agents and other clients that I didn't have to pay. So I had the beauty of both. I then came across an opportunity to buy another mortgage broking business of a broker that used to work with me at the other company. He was leaving the industry. And that was a small business, but it gave me a client base and it gave me a passive income straight away. Very small passive income, but a passive income still helps no matter how small it is. And that just gave me the opportunity to start looking after those clients and building that really. So I guess the journey from there has really just been focusing on dealing with the clients that I want to deal with, dealing with people like as in people that refer me clients, really looking after people that I connect with and that have the same vision as I do and look after their clients the same way that I do. I don't believe in bad business. I don't like dealing with people that don't look after their clients and don't value the relationships they have. So I was very focused on, you know, looking after people the way that I would want to be looked after. And to be honest, it's just kind of evolved from there. It's just, I find that if I'm doing the right thing by people and doing the right, you know, just doing the right thing, really, that really good things come from that. And now that I've been doing my own thing for about, I think it's 4 years now, the repeat business after that is just beautiful. Like, I love the phone calls that I get where they don't talk to anyone else first. They ring me first. Can I do this? What are your thoughts on this? And it's really beautiful, you know, to watch people grow and to build their portfolio. One thing I guess I did want to touch on, just in relation to the investment property purchases and things like that. One thing for me was that at the time, I couldn't afford to buy where I wanted to live. So I wanted to live, you know, I was young, I was going out, I was having a good time, I was socialising with my friends as well as I was working. But I was working at the time in Elstonwick and St Kilda. So I wanted to kind of live semi-close to work. If I was doing late appointments, I didn't want to be living out far or anything like that. So where I wanted to live was really expensive at the time, and I just couldn't afford to actually buy a home to live in there. So I thought, well, if I can't do that, then maybe I can rent where I want to live and buy a small investment property. Like, as I said, my first one was 110,000. And I know right now that probably sounds like a really low purchase price to a lot of people, but the reality is you still can buy units in Adelaide for $100,000 and $200,000. So they're still there. It just depends on adjusting your mindset, I guess, to whether you can do that and whether you're happy to buy an investment property first and have something small that you start with and build on from that. If you can't, you know, afford to buy, well, right now, what, $1 million to live in a city circle where you want to live, then rent, because the rent is actually quite cheap. In, you know, if you want to share or do whatever. I shared with 3 other girls when I bought my investment property. So, you know, it's all possible to do. It's just a matter of changing your mindset about going, well, okay, if I can't afford to get in the market there, maybe I can afford to get in the market there. And it might be something small, and it might be a 3 to 5 year thing that you sit on for, and you might sell it and then buy the house that you want to live in. But you've been in the market, you've made a bit of money, and you've taken some opportunity, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to touch on that. I also just wanted to touch on, I guess, where my business is now. I am in the process of settling on another business, a bit bigger business. That's still a mortgage broking business, but it's kind of going to mean that I have another 250 or so clients and some more passive income. But I guess what I wanted to touch on with that is I'm a big believer in not burning relationships and always doing the right thing by people, whether it's something that they can serve you with now or you can serve them with now or later. And, you know, in buying this new business, I'm leveraging off an investor relationship that I made probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I think that's one thing that I learnt very early on, was to always just to remember that relationships that you build now, they come around in different ways in your future. Look, Emily, we're here today, you know, and we met like 11, 12 years ago. So, you know, you never know how things are going to come around again. And I know that now. I didn't necessarily know that then. I just knew that I always wanted to treat people well and be treated well. But so this business I'm buying now, I have an investor with me so that I don't have to take the full risk myself. But it will allow me to get to that kind of next stage where the next time I am able to buy a business, I can probably do it 100% on my own. But you don't necessarily, and that's maybe the key takeaway here, is that you don't always have to do it on your own either. You can have people involved that can assist you to get where you need to go, and you don't have to have 100% of the pie to make it happen either. So hopefully that settles on the 1st of June. So I'm going to be busy in a good way though. So I just wanted to touch on those. Some other things, I guess, that I wanted to show you. Emily, I might get you, if you don't mind, to let me have a little bit of control with the screen.
So you're now the host. So if you need to click share screen.
I need to, thank you. Share screen. Okay. So can you see my screen now?
Not yet, but if you click on the screen, is it giving you some options?
Yes.
Yep, so then click on the screen that you actually want to share, and yep, now I can see it. Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, so what I really want to do, I guess, is just touch on some things that I've used from a finance perspective that helped me on my journey. And I think there's also some really good resources here that everyone can use for different parts of their life. Some finance, some just working out their goals, things like that. But the one that's on the screen at the moment, this comes from a company, also to touch on, none of these are my own. So these are things that I've picked up from conferences and different events I've been at, different companies I follow online or blogs. But they're things that I've come across and thought, I would use that. This one is from Female Entrepreneur Association. It's called My Perfectly Planned Month, but and I'll email these all to you, Emily, if you want to give these to everybody. Everyone can use them as they wish. But this one here, I don't use monthly. I use it quarterly, and I kind of review it every 3 to 4 months. I kind of go back, have a look, review, and then I'll try to write my one for the next 3 to 4 months. But if you have a look through it, it's going to be, everyone will be able to relate to the document. It'll just be used for different purposes. Some will have business, some will use it just for their own goals. But it's something that I find is really quite cool. So it's just about reflecting, reviewing, and planning. And on here, there's some really good prompting questions that I find are really cool. So what things did you achieve and projects did you finish over the last month? Usually from my perspective, I will not only do this from my business, but from personal. So if I've been, if the previous quarter I'd set goals for, getting into the gym a little bit more often, or taking my dog for a walk a bit more often, or eating more healthy, these will be things I'll actually be reflecting here and putting down, what it is that I've done. What's been working well for me, am I actually making it to the gym every couple of days that I want to, or am I eating well? Am I doing those things? And, the challenges that I face, like, do I have the time? Am I making the time? All of those can be filled in here. What lessons did you learn that you're going to carry forward? That might be, for me, sometimes, being more organised with, meetings or whatever it might be. I love this one. What were you grateful for last month? This one's always a nice one for me, because I think sometimes we don't realise every day, when we're just so busy, the beautiful things that happen along the way. So I always take time to kind of reflect on those. And what do you want to do better or improve on the next month? We then go into the finance side of it. This can be business, or this can be just your personal income. How much revenue did your business generate over the last month? what were your total expenses and what did you net? This is really a tool just to get an idea of where you're at as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be used for building. It can just be, okay, well, what are my expenses? Do I even think about what they are? And what is my total income that's coming in? This is obviously, I don't really use this part. I don't monitor my social media, my websites or anything like that with how many followers I have or subscribers. I just have information and content on there for people to use and go to, but I'm not really big on that. But I know a lot of businesses need to be and are, so this I found was quite good for those people that, you know, needed that and wanted to monitor it. And as you can see, you can put in your information there. Setting your goals. So this is obviously looking forward to that next quarter, what my main focus is for the month. And these, as I said, are personal as well. So, you know, you can put in anything that you think, you know, you want to aspire to that following quarter. I'll have a lot. Usually I focus a lot in this section on business. My personal things I like to try to do consistently. So my gym and my eating well, that's my lifestyle. So I do that anyway. But, you know, walking my dog a bit more or going visiting my grandparents or doing those things that sometimes get pushed aside, that's where I would kind of put these in here. Things I want to work on in my businesses for that month or that quarter, I'll jot those down. And then what I need to actually do to make that happen. And that's where the key is. It's in the action. And, you know, that's where I try to get actually a little bit more detailed and write down, all right, so if I want to write this amount of business, this is how many people I need to call, this is how many people I need to speak to, these are the appointments I need to be doing, and, you know, when do I need to do those by, what does it look like? That's where a lot of that information goes. And then these are kind of goals that I set. So in front of my desk in the office, I have a one-pager, and on that has my annual goal. So what I want to do from a business perspective on an annual basis, what I need to do monthly to achieve that. And this, you know, I touch on this occasionally, but because I have that one-pager on my desk, I don't always use this. But, you know, depending on your business, it may be useful for you. And then this is just a little, you know, some little tips on what to do when you finish that. And it's thinking about, you know, believe that you'll reach them, seeing it happening, feeling that it's happening, and knowing that it's happening, and going for it, I guess. Trying to keep, you know, to try to get ahead and focus on those things. So, you know, for me, I know that I've got a set time in my diary that I've got to make calls to existing clients. I've got to call them and I've got to see how they're going with their home loan. Are they comfortable with it? Do they understand everything that's going on with it? Do they have any questions? I need to make sure I do that. So I need to chunk that into my diary and make sure that that time's put aside every week. And, you know, that's, I guess, the staying focused on the tasks that you need to complete. So the things that you need to get you to those goals are sometimes more important to focus on than the actual goal itself. Because if you're doing those little things, you'll get there. And then just have fun doing it. So this is just, you know, this is a really good template just to print off a few and have them there and just use them to review where you're at in your life and what you want to do and where you want to go, and just use it for that. Just helpful to get it all out.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So then I'll take you to this website here. So, oh my God. Do I have to do new share?
No, it should just follow you.
The toolbar's popping up. Okay. So this here There we go. Oh, it keeps, sorry.
If you want to stop the share, and then you'll be able to click on the tab that you want, and then you can share it again. Oh, there we go.
So this is a website run by ASIC. So it's called Money Smart, and it's pretty much ASIC, the government, providing this beautiful place where there is so much information. And I use this a lot, and I refer people to it a lot because there is just so much content in here, and it just depends on what content you need. So this I find is really cool. This is like You and Your Money, and it's a women's toolkit. So it's all about getting educated on different parts of finance and different stages of life for women. And it may be, you know, over here, as you can see, that you've got your under 25s, but then down here, and you click on women, you've got all these different options of investing and getting advice, getting ready for retirement, super and women, and the toolkit. So what you can do is you can go to this website and you can personalize the toolkit specifically to you. So it goes through and it asks you a whole lot of questions. It talks about, you know, options for when you're having a baby and what to do with your super. And it's just such a place of knowledge. And I find that this is just, you can get lost in this. And this is coming from, I know, a finance brain. Grab a cup of tea, sit down and have a read. But I really enjoy just going through here and finding all the information that I need. So yeah, I'll obviously send this through to you as well. The other thing which I find is really good, there's two different things on here. I've got the budget planner. This enables you to go in and you can enter all your information, all your own personal information in here. So income, as you can see, you can click on these and it opens up and you can put in your actual information. You know, it might put in all your expenses, groceries, children's summary, and it really just gives you a real understanding of where your money's going, and I guess how to monitor it, because, you know, we're all spending money on coffees and food and all different things. It's just a really good tool to work out where it's going, and you can save it, come back, edit it, play with it, download it, whatever you want to do. You can do that as well. So that's another tool that I find is really good. This beautiful website, girlsgottaknow.com.au, is like a powerhouse of information. This gives you, this is almost like a legal website where you can get information on all different types of legal information, really. So for instance, I'm in relationships at the moment, so it talks to you and tells you all the information that you need to know from a legal perspective about, you know, marriage, de facto relationships. Like, for instance, you know, you click on de facto, scroll down. Well, this is giving you a description of what a de facto relationship is, but things to think about when you're moving in together. You know, are you getting Centrelink? You must tell Centrelink about it. Separation. This is a big one. I find a lot of women that I talk to that are considering separating. A lot of them will start the process of getting to know financially what they can do, what benefits are available to them, what the process is of separating, you know, whether they can actually afford to buy the family home off their partner. A lot of people will do this and gather information before they actually make a decision. And it's really important to have those resources available when you need to make those decisions. It's quite a really, really vulnerable space that women get to when they're considering their options. And it's really, really important to deal with trusted professionals when you're in that space, and people that have your back. So I find that you know, like a lot of women that do come to me and we are dealing with those issues, I then refer them on to other services. So it may be that they need a really good lawyer, and they may need a good lawyer that's not going to charge them, you know, ridiculous amounts of money. They might need a really good support, or really just general information. But this is a really good starting website for that, in terms of just getting the information that you need. You know, even partying and trouble, like that's for that younger generation that are out and about and starting, you know, just employment. You know, you've obviously got your money types of things. You've got, you know, managing your money. If you're not managing your money, for instance, or you're getting into debt, credit card debt and things like that, what are the options that are available to you? You know, do you start paying off, you know, one over the other? Like, how does that work? Do you start paying the credit card off first before you pay the car loan? Do you pay the car loan first? And not everyone knows that. So they're all things that obviously we can go through at another time, but this is a really good website to start that. Binding financial agreements. So, you know, a lot now, there's a lot of people that have been separated and divorced, and a lot of people will come in and say, well, I actually want to buy a property on my own, but I am in a de facto relationship, and what are the options that are available? How do I do that, and how do I protect that for my children going forward, so that, you know, my new partner isn't able to get that? And it's just about having the right advice, really. So this website's a great starting point. You can also contact me if anyone, you know, needs any referrals or anything to people for that kind of information. Another really one, back to that Money Smart website, is Track My Spend. This is actually an app, and this one is just fantastic. You can put in so much information. So this one, you can actually drill down to where your money's going. You can differentiate between what's a need and a want, because obviously, you know, what we want is not always what we need. But anyhow, you know, you can set reminders in here. It can send text messages for your phone. Look, it really is just a way of tracking your money and keeping you accountable to, you know, where it's going, really. You can put in as much or as little information as you want, but this one is a really good one, given that we're all always on our phones. It'll always be with you. One other thing I guess I just wanted to also touch on is I've got a guy that I love to follow. He's a financial planner in the industry, and he writes in the Herald Sun, and he's written a few books, and some of you might have heard of him, but his name's Scott Pate, but he calls himself the Barefoot Investor. And he very much talks about keeping money simple, and the way that he writes is very relatable, I guess, to all of us at this kind of age that we're at. But this website link I will send to you, Emily, and you can pass it on, because it's a really good read. I'm not going to read it obviously to you now, but it talks about breaking up your income, and it talks about you know, what you should be doing with it, in the sense of, you know, breaking up your bank accounts into 3 or 4 buckets, and using one for savings, and one for splurging, and one for your safety net and investing. And this is a really, really good read. You know, it's just one of those things that you've got to start thinking about is, you know, we'll get that money every week, but where does it go? And a way that you can start to, even if it's just a little bit, you can start to build your asset position. Whether it's, you know, this part here is 20%. And the other thing is too, it's not hard and fast rules. It's just a guide to what you can start to do. You know, even if it's 10% or even if it's 5%, even if you're starting, that's the main thing, is just trying to build that slowly. I think that was all of the. I've also got another template which I will email to you, similar to that monthly budget one, but this one is a little bit more on, it works on your identifying what your risk, your investing profile is. So I think I might have it here. Here we go. So this document here asks you a whole lot of questions. So you can go through and answer them. So you would select, out of question 1, you would select which one is for you. So which describes your current stage of life, and you would select which one of these actually describes your life. So it might be, you're single with a few financial burdens, you're keen to accumulate wealth for the future, some funds must be kept available for enjoyment, cars, clothes, travel and entertainment. So that, you know, that one, or a couple without children, might be you, and you would select that, and then you would just move through. And some of these you're not going to know the answer to, but it may be you just keep it simple. So if you were going to invest money, what kind of return would you be comfortable with? Or would you be happy to get a small return or a greater return? And then you go through, and really what this does is at the end, you'll see that you add up your score, and it will tell you the type of person you are. So are you a conservative type investor, or are you more cautious? Are you actually quite aggressive? And then based on that, you can then talk to a financial planner if you want to. And it might be that you start a really, really, really small share portfolio, and you say, well, I'm actually, based on what I know about myself, I'm actually quite, at this age, an aggressive investor. And, you know, someone can actually start to do those investments on your behalf. And it may be little, it may be just little that you start. But this will give you an idea of the type of person that you are, and this will change depending on your stage of life and what you're going through at the time. But it's really good to kind of go through this occasionally and just get an update on where you think you're at. So that's pretty much it with the templates and everything like that. I guess just Emily, you touched on earlier the cafe and everything like that. I just wanted to, I guess, give you a bit of an idea on what took place there and why that really happened. So it was called Organic Lane, and my partner and I set it up. My partner's a real estate agent, and I'm obviously in finance, and we both work in the same suburb, and we're both very health conscious. We both like eating really well, and there really is, there wasn't, and now there isn't any really good healthy eating places around us. And we were struggling for food, and I would find myself all the time driving out of my work area and suburb to other suburbs like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes away to get good food. And I went to Paran for an appointment and was driving back, and I rang my partner. I said, I'm eating an acai bowl. I've got my salad. I just went to Paran and bought all this beautiful food, this beautiful organic salad, and I've got a juice and I've got a smoothie, and I'm sorted for the day. And he's like, where did you get that from? And I said, I've just been in Paran. He's like, God, I wish we could get that here. And I was like, yeah, so do I. And then I said, well, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay. And then we never really talked about it again. Maybe we should open a cafe. And that was about like the gist of the conversation really for a couple of weeks. And then I went back to the office that day with all that food, and all of the girls in the office were like, where did you get that? And I said, I drove to Paran. And they're like, oh God, we wish we had this in Bentley. And I was like, yeah, I know, I do too. It'd be so good if we had this food. I'm sure someone will open something soon. Like, it's just a matter of time. And that was it. And then that weekend we were sitting there, and we were just, I don't even know. I can't even remember how it came about. But my partner and I were just talking about these acai bowls, and he's like, I've never really had an acai bowl. I said, well, come, let's go. We'll go have some. So we drove around. I took him to a few of these healthy food cafes, and all of a sudden he's addicted to acai bowls. And, you know, that's what we did every weekend. We'd go and have a coffee and have an acai bowl and just, you know, eat well. And then we just started talking about it a little bit more, and I said to him, well, maybe we could do something in Bentley, like even if it's something little, like maybe we can just do something. And he's like, you know what, maybe we should, like, let's have a look at what shops are around. And he called his commercial real estate agent friend and said, oh, if you've got any shops around, or what's around. And it so happened that there was a shop diagonally opposite my office, and it was down the wrong end of the street, and it was just not really in the spot that you would normally have a cafe, really. But that's what I kind of liked about it, because I was like, well, there's easy parking, everything's all good down there. So cut a long story short, we didn't have the concept, apart from we knew we wanted to do healthy food. We wanted to potentially do take-home meals and like your gym meals that you can get where, you know, people do it for you. And that was really as far as we had thought about the actual concept of it. And then we went and saw this shop, had a look at it, and 2 weeks later we signed the lease. I know, random. We were just like, okay, let's just do this. Okay, let's do it. And, you know, it felt so right. I'd never, at the time, I'd never signed my name next to another guy ever. And, you know, I just felt like it was right. So I did it. And, you know, we had done no figures on it, like business 101, like we just did not even do it on this. We just thought, we love this, we are passionate about this is just going to work. And, you know, everyone around us was so excited about it for Bentley as well. They were just like, oh my God, we so need this here. Like, it is, people are hanging for this healthy food. And to be honest, like, the journey of opening that place was like nothing I've ever done before. I have learnt so much, and so not what to do and so what to do. And I've learnt that hospitality is the hardest thing that I had ever done. I have a completely new appreciation for the food that is put in front of me in any cafe. But it was so amazing and so beautiful to be able to have a vision and create a vision together and with other people, of what it was going to look like, feel like, the vibe, the culture was going to be, and to execute that was amazing. The journey and what I thought having a cafe would be was not what it was like. Unfortunately, the dream was so much better than the reality. It is absolutely, especially when you have another business, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It made me take my foot off the pedal with my finance business, because I just couldn't give 100% to that. So I was just constantly divided. And the other thing, I guess, is that unless you're in your business, and you're actually there all the time, it's not executed how you want it to be every day. The customer experience, the environment, just the little things that you as an owner would do that other people don't do, you have no control over that. And I really struggled with that. I struggled with it not being a reflection of what we wanted it to be when we weren't there. So what then happened, we had it opened for just under a year. And I started thinking about potentially at some point having a baby, and thinking also that I was taking the foot off the pedal with the other business. And I just was starting to talk to my partner about, you know, like, long term, what are we going to do here? Because you just can't do everything. And I think that's the reality when you're running a business, is that you're running one really well, so you think, oh, I can do another one and that'll be really good too. And as I said, it was good and I wouldn't change it, but I don't think I would do it again, because it was just so much pressure. And anyway, we ended up, luckily enough, having someone come through and actually approach us at the time that I was having these thoughts, that wanted to buy it. Wow. So yeah, they loved the fit out. They loved the shop. They actually loved the concept. The only thing for them was that they were actually in wine, and they wanted to change the concept. So anyway, at the time that I was having these thoughts, we got approached and they made an offer to us, and we decided, like, we toed and froed for so many weeks about whether we were actually, especially less than a year in operation, whether we were ready to actually let it go, and let them buy it. And yeah, we decided that given where we were at the stage of life and what we were trying to do future-wise, that it was probably best for us to move on, especially because we couldn't give it what we needed to give it to be there. So look, amazing experience. Forever grateful to be able to execute that. And we still, we still eat really healthy. We just don't get it where we want it. So they've now since changed the cafe a little bit, and yeah, it's all good. But very lucky to have had that opportunity, and I put it down to experience.
Yep, tick that goal.
Pardon?
Ticked off that goal.
Yeah, it was very crazy. It was a goal I never knew I had, and then it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was super motivated and super excited. And I used to drive down the street imagining it open and people sitting outside, and then when it was open, to actually drive past and see them, people sitting there and enjoying the food and loving it. It was great. So now I go to another cafe that's very similar, and every time I walk in there, I see an Organic Lane customer, and they're always like, "Oh my God, I so miss your cafe." And I was like, "So do I." I really miss the food and the beautiful coffee and everything. But it was an amazing journey. And you know what? Sometimes in business, you have to make hard decisions. That even though you're doing something that you really love and may not be serving your future purpose, and it may not be in line with that. So for us, we decided that our existing businesses were really, really good. And if anything, it actually gave me a new appreciation for my business again. It kind of reinvigorated it again, made me 100% focused. So it was good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great chapter.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Mate, I have got pages and pages and pages of incredible notes here. I knew that you would over-deliver, and you have certainly over-delivered. Like,
okay.
You need to write a book.
A book? My gosh.
You're like, another project.
Yeah.
I guess now from here, probably one thing, and I know we've had this discussion, and I think by this stage of coming through the session, the girls will be in love with you, and we'll talk about how they can get in touch with you for, further relationships and services and that kind of thing as well. But coming through now the journey, like the experiences, the chapters, what does that next 5-year, 10-year plan look like for Amber?
Really for me, the next couple of years are going to involve having a baby. So that is very unknown. For obvious, I'm sure those that have had that experience, you can plan all you want, but control is gone, I hear. So look, for me, I need to now think about putting in place in my business support mechanisms, I guess, that can help me to be able to still be in the business when I can be. Well, I think I've already got another broker that works for me. I had an assistant, and I've got another one starting soon, that can manage the business while I'm not there for at least that first 6 months. and in saying that, I don't know when this is going to be that I'm going to actually have the baby, but my plan is to do that in the next 2-3 years. So I need to make sure that the business is structured so that I can actually do that and not have to think too much about what's going on there, that is handled. And obviously that I can still earn money from that business while I'm not working. And then it's about, how do I manage both? So how do I manage being a mum, and how do I manage running a business, and a good business, at the same time? And to be honest, like, I don't know the answer to that yet. I think it all depends on the type of baby you have, or, you know, like, I don't know the answer to this. So it's a bit hard to plan for. I think as long as I've got good support in the office and at home, excuse me, I've got to see what I can manage. So it's about trying to work out how I can structure my business to accommodate a baby and me not being there as often as I am now in a full-time capacity. So, and that's what I've really, like, I've noticed over the last couple of months, I've been focusing on and trying to think about and gain from other people that have had children and run a business and everything like that, on how they do that best. You know, do they put their child in daycare or things like that, and how does even that work? Like, I have no idea. So I'm about to go on another little journey of all of that. So definitely that is in my next, you know, short-term years. Long-term, I'd like to just continue to grow my business. I really love going to work. It's really interesting. A lot of people say, well, you know, you've got all this flexibility, you can do what you want with all the time that you have. And I said, well, the interesting thing is, like, I don't know the last time I've had a sick day since I've had my business. Like, even if I'm sick, I'm there. And it's not because I'm like going in all sick, and it's actually because I want to be there. It's not, I don't even feel like I want to stay home. It's weird. But I guess that's because I do love what I do, and I really enjoy being there. And it's, so yeah, I think the next definitely the next 5+ years will be just, I think I'll further educate myself as well. I'd like to take my business from just being mortgage broking to myself also becoming a financial planner. So there'll be education in there as well. And, you know, I do find that every couple of years I find myself, even in the finance space, I need to kind of change it up a bit. And that may be that I just sink my teeth into a new type of finance. Like, for instance, you know, in the last year or two, I've specialised a lot in self-managed super funds and helping people to structure finance so they can buy property using their super. And I really enjoy that because it's complex. But then when I'm doing complex, I really love then the first home buyer that calls me, and I can just, you know, step them through their first purchase as well. So one thing about the industry is there is not many women. And women do really well in this industry because men and women are comforted by dealing with women around finance, and they have a completely different approach. Definitely a lot gentler, definitely a lot less pushy, and, you know, coming from an authentic and genuine space, I think people pick up on that a lot from women. So there is definitely a gap in the finance space for women in there. So yeah, any potential brokers out there, please come and join. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of where I'm going at the moment. I don't actually at the moment feel like I want to venture off into any other areas. I think I'm good in finance at the moment, and I just want to kind of focus on building this and enjoying it too, you know.
And being a mum.
And being a mum.
Yeah.
Yes. That's going to be a whole new ball game, isn't it?
Oh,
It's going to be a little business I'm going to have to learn to run.
further education required there as well.
Oh,
No, that's brilliant, brilliant. Lastly, what is the best way for the girls to reach you? Is it through your website? Would you like me to give them, mobile number, email?
Look, honestly, via the easiest way is either via mobile, by email, or by Facebook.
Great. All right, I'll make sure that
my personal page, my business page on Facebook, and then also my personal number and my email address. They obviously reach me directly. So
yeah,
happy to chat and answer any questions anyone might have, even if it's not finance related and it's just about business in general, or thought processes about fear and what they're doing next or anything. More than happy to have a chat and see if I can help.
Absolutely, and really excited to share with everyone that Amber is going to be one of our speakers later on in the year when she's had a beautiful overseas trip, and we've got our events starting to be scheduled for the second half of the year, so it's not the last you'll be seeing of her, definitely. And like I said, so many resources there, so many fantastic tips in business, in life, in finance, like absolutely just can't thank you enough, lovely. So thank you so much for your precious time. I know you have so much going on, and the girls are just going to soak every little bit of this up. So I will stop our recording there, and thank you again so much to the gorgeous Amber.
You're welcome. Thank you.